Hello and welcome to Return to Writing, where I am too lazy to actually do my hair, so you'll have to deal with the wig for today. Don't worry, it's not going to be in every video, but for now, this is what we are dealing with. So, if you have been keeping up with my posts, because I do use the community tab on my channel, I may have mentioned that the next project I was working on, the next book I was working on, I would take you guys along with me. Now, I forget to film things, so I've already started the new book. It is a slasher story that I've been trying to get off the ground for a while now, but after some reworking, it's officially in the works. So yeah, no. My story, there can only be one. I may have put the horse before the cart a teensy bit in my merch shop with some old art I made for it, back when it was originally just going to be a quick short story novella ebook thing. But it's basically set up like a slasher flick, but playing on what I like to call the unintentional trope of horror, because in horror movies, as a horror fan myself, I grew up watching a lot, hence the reason I'm writing horror stories. Chrissy's and Tina's don't tend to make it through the movie. We are usually one of the first to go, or if anything, we get this close. We get this close. So I'm playing on that. I am 100% playing on that, and if anything, I get why they usually say don't write characters with similar sounding names, because I've had to go back and course correct my own writing so far, being like, okay, this is what Tina would say, not Chrissy. Or vice versa, and it's very confusing, but let's rewind a bit. So, what made me pick this one back up? Well, I mean, again, having just released a horror story, a collection of short horror stories. Hang on, I have the book over here. Dark Pine, Tales of Terror, a collection of 6 scary stories based around urban legends and local legends of the fictional town of Dark Pine. It's a very Are You Afraid of the Dark meets Twilight Zone kind of vibe. I had fun writing it. I had fun putting together the stories that I had previously written to make them work with the vibe, with the tone, because I literally did everything myself. I am a one-woman show, if you will. And jumping off of that, while I was finishing that up, I was going back to my other projects and being like, okay, what do I want to work on next? Because as a writer, even as a debut author, I am very aware that you just have to keep going, keep writing, keep working on the next thing. And true to form, I went back to some old stories I've had either planned or started, and this was one of them. But it was stuck, because I've tried resurrecting this multiple times. I've tried making a comic out of it. I have attempted to just make it a short story, but it was a matter of figuring out what wasn't working, why wasn't it going anywhere. And when it all came down to was there really was no plan. It was literally just going to be a quick short story. There was no full plan for it. So I sat myself down. I did what I always do when I plan out chapter outlines and story plans, and I started, chapter outlining. I started planning out, okay, what beats do I want to hit? What do I want happening here? Who are the characters? What's their differences? Who is the main villain? What is going to happen? And while doing the initial outlining, because I do an initial note-taking outline and then the chapter outlines, I was getting stuck on the note-taking. So I did something that I've started recently doing, and it's dipping into what I like to call, because this is very much a thing in IT, but I call it the rubber duck method, where I just take one of my stuffed animals or something and prop it up on the other side of wherever I am writing. So for this one, it's what I like to call my writing buggy. If you are a One Piece fan, you know. But I propped him up on the other side of my binder because I like to do all of my outlining by hand. And I started writing. And it's gotta be like a placebo effect, the rubber duck thing. Because literally, not even a few minutes after placing him on the other side of my binder, it was like that. It's suddenly I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to write. I knew where the story should go, and I was immediately on to the chapter outlining. So now I have a story. Now the interesting thing with this story is that I'm playing with POV swaps. I'm playing with going from character to character. Hence the reason I have these little sections. There you go. I have them marked off, and a little key of the color coordinating all set up. Like, I even just have little notes. This is literally how I outline. I literally have a binder that's loose leaf paper, and I just outline there. But this is my first time really experimenting with POV changes. I mean, I've tried it a few times with The Collectors, which is a book I mentioned in the past, which turned out to be more of a passion project, and I got very stuck, which my writing buggy has also helped me rework, because once I finished working this out, I ended up working out The Collectors. So you might recognize, if you've been on my channel long enough, this was the original plan for the, well, maybe not the original plan. This was the edit of the original plan for the Collectors, and it got stopped at chapter 20. And I was like, okay, what am I doing with this? Because again, as a writer, you just got to keep writing. When one thing isn't working, you can always jump into another project. Hi, this is another project. And I basically did exactly what I did with There Could Only Be One. I went for the general note-taking outlines, propped up Buggy. I also propped up, think you can see him laying down in the back, Chopper. A little tiny Tony Chopper that looks like Sanji. Very much a One Piece fan. Grew up with the anime. Talk for another day. But propped them up in front of my binder, and I started note-taking and being like, okay, what isn't working? What's the main problem here? And the moment I put those two in front of me, it was just like, okay, suddenly this makes sense. It seriously has to be a placebo effect to have them there. Like, if anything, I will try to, like, insert a picture here or here, somewhere on the screen. Like, if you follow me on Instagram, you have seen this. But suddenly everything clicked. There were sort of too many characters, but also it was two different stories sort of butting heads. Because I had two different main characters, and it was creating too much of a story. And then it came down to something you hear a lot in writing, and that's killing your darlings. Because I had to come down to the difficult decision of nixing a character and choosing which one was better for a story, and for the story. And my main characters at this point were Alistair, the original main character, the original MC of the story, and Morris, who was an unintentional character that was a side character introduced in the second go-through of the story. After some tough decisions and a lot of pacing, I chose Morris. As with There Can Only Be One, once I had everything worked out and I chose which character to follow and which one to nix, I moved on to the story itself, where I would take the story, and it evolved and grew very quickly, and I was on to the chapter outlining, which, if you thought this was interesting, this packet of loose leaf paper that is stapled together, if I remember correctly, There Can Only Be One came down to, like, I think like 16 chapters in this plan? Yeah, 16 chapters. There Can Only Be One is a lot shorter in comparison, because The Collectors, let's see, was it 20-something? 23 chapters. 23 chapters. So, needless to say, placebo effect or not, the rubber duck method is very effective. Now, while There Can Only Be One is a true, like, horror thriller, The Collectors is very much a fantasy story. It is very much sort of magical realism in a sense, not quite urban fantasy in the sense of, like, full modern day, like, situation, like Our Lives, but with magic thrown in. Sort of just, like, dark academia vibes, where it's sort of like a Batman kind of universe where there's an implication of a time frame, of a time period, but you never really know when that time period is. That kind of vibe? Yeah. Something sort of like that, but dark academia vibes and magic and wonder. But then I started doing these things on the side, where I started challenging myself to creating stories. You know, just keep the creative juices going between projects. And look, I don't mind reading romance. I don't typically write it. I'm usually a horror and fantasy writer. There's usually no romance involved. I'm not too big into spicy romance. I don't like the spice. I'm very a mild romance reader. I'm a rom-com kind of person, always have been, even with movies. But the other day I decided to challenge myself to create a romance story that I would read. So I got to planning. Now, notebooks typically tend to be where I jot down the actual notes of things. So the binder is more for the chapter outlining. The note-taking is in a notebook, typically. And it started with some just general ideas. General ideas, what I'm typically into, and since this is new territory for me writing-wise, what do I know? I'm going off of what I know I can write comfortably. And it started off with very generic, just basic notes. And then I was stuck. So, rubber duck method came in handy one more time. All of my lovely plushies, all of my pals, let's consider them my writing team. And then my inspirational Barbie, as so many people have started getting, thanks to the Barbie movie. My writing team was with me, and it went from just this top half to everything else. And then, instead of chapter outlining, a full story outline. Again, all from this little gal and my writing team in the back. This way. Yeah, this way. Them. Yeah. Needless to say, if this has taught me anything, the rubber duck method is a wonderful way to unstick yourself when you can't figure out where to take a story. But I started writing. I started writing that story. I am currently on chapter 1. Yeah. Never thought I'd be writing romance. It's very mild, though. So that's fun. As for the other books, though, I haven't started writing, or rewriting, really, the collectors, because I'm going to be starting over since I'm following a different character this time, so I will be taking chunks of chapters from later in the book, or at least from what was originally later in the book, and using that in the beginning of this new version of the story. But I've started working on There Can Only Be One. I am a chapter in, and I do have the original story and what I have already written planned as part of chapter 5. So I have chapter 1 and chapter 5, and so far it's just a lot of me getting into the habit of writing, getting back in the habit of, okay, I need to get this done, I need to get this taken care of, and then me remembering, okay, what do I do with my Kindle Vella series? Because I do have a Kindle Vella series called Fixer Upper. It was supposed to be like a modern gothic horror, and it went nowhere. Because again, I don't have a plan, so I'm going to be doing some chapter planning on that. But debating on whether to keep it or to scrap it and rework that. Because again, as a writer, I'm one of those people that has multiple projects going at once, and seeing basically what takes the lead. Seeing which stories are going to push forward first, although I am aiming for There Can Only Be One to be the next thing I publish. So, yeah. This is what it's like for me as a writer, at least. Hopefully as projects go on, I will remember to actually record things. Because I do want to take you guys along with me on my writing journey. But for now, this is what I have. So, this is the end of the video. At this point, you know the shtick. This is YouTube after all. If you like what you saw, give this a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more. You can comment on the video telling me if you would like to see more of this content, because I do want to share this journey with you all as a self-publishing author, especially. Because I am a one-woman team. I am my cover designer. I am my illustrator. I am my formatter. because the things you learn when it comes to publishing your own book and doing everything yourself and literally being your own team, you don't think about, oh yeah, I need to learn how to format this thing in order to turn it into an actual physical thing you can hold and go, oh yeah, no, I can read this now. Because what do you think about the gutter? What do you think about, oh yeah, no, I need to work on the spacing in here so it doesn't look like the words are being swallowed by the book? No, you wouldn't think of that. You wouldn't think of, oh, crap, how do I do alternating page numbers? If I can get this in my even there, yeah, alternating page numbers. So you get them in the corners. You don't think of this stuff. But when you are your own team, you kind of have to teach yourself. So links to every way you can support me are in the description below, especially if you go to my Buy Me a Coffee. There you can find things like my bi-monthly zine. Issue 2 is now up, which comes with a printable poster. So that's fun. That has all of the like little illustrations at the start of the stories for Dark Pine Tales of Terror, which you can get on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, although it's not in stores at Barnes & Noble, but you could possibly ask them to order it from in-store. I don't know, I haven't tried. But you can also order it from Books A Million. As I said in my previous video, there's also thrift books and Better World books. And I will see you guys in the next video, whenever that is. So, yeah. Oh, and also my merch shop is linked below. That's there too, so you can get fun t-shirts that I designed myself. And yeah, there is as of this video, there is a 31% off code you can use with your order. That is good until October 31st. So, yeah, I will see you guys whenever the next video is.